Welcome to today's English session. If you're stuck memorizing words and grammar but still can't speak fluently, you're not alone. Many learners at the intermediate level feel exactly like this. Why memorization fails. You've been told to memorize grammar rules, flashcards, verb tables, vocabulary lists. But let's be honest, how much of that do you actually use when you're speaking? Most learners hit a wall at the intermediate level, not because they're not studying hard enough, but because they're studying the wrong way. The truth is, memorizing English without understanding how it's used is like learning to cook by reading recipes, but never stepping into the kitchen. Here's the problem: your brain doesn't work well with isolated information. When you memorize a word or a rule with no context, it floats around in your mind, disconnected and fragile. That's why it disappears the moment you try to speak or listen. For example, you might know the word eventually from a list, but can you confidently use it in a sentence? Can you recognize it in fast speech? Probably not. That's because memorization doesn't create strong mental connections. Think about how you learned your native language. Did you memorize verb conjugations as a baby? Of course not. You listened, understood meaning from context, guessed, repeated, and made mistakes. You lived the language. And that's the key. Memorizing makes you a robot. Understanding makes you a speaker. Let's say you're trying to learn the past tense. You memorize go, went, gone. Fine. But then in a real conversation, someone says, "So, I went to the market this morning and guess what happened?" Your brain hears went, but doesn't connect it to the verb go. Why? Because you never learned it in a sentence. You didn't see how it works. Your brain needs context to glue everything together. Memorization creates short-term recall, but language is about long-term, flexible use. If I asked you to repeat 10 new words right now, you might remember 7. But could you still remember them next week? Or better yet, could you use them in a conversation naturally, without hesitating? That's the test that matters. And here's another issue. When you memorize, you often memorize the wrong thing. Maybe you see the word sympathetic and think it means nice or kind, which is true in many languages. But in English, sympathetic means showing understanding or compassion, which is a little different. Memorization doesn't give you that nuance, but real usage does. When you see it in a movie or hear it in a conversation, you get the feel of the word, not just the definition. Let's talk about fear. Many learners are afraid to make mistakes. They want to know the rule first, then speak. But that's not how fluency works. Fluency comes from trial and error, not perfection. If you're always waiting to be 100% correct before speaking, you'll wait forever. Memorizing might make you feel prepared, but in reality, it slows you down. It's like reading about swimming techniques, but never getting into the water. Even worse, memorization can make English feel boring. Repeating dry phrases and staring at word lists kills motivation. But understanding, that's exciting. When you see how phrases come alive in stories or conversations, your brain wakes up. You start connecting things. You say, that's how it works. And those are the moments when English starts sticking. Now think about this. Why do you remember lines from your favorite movie or lyrics from a song, even if you weren't trying to memorize them? Because they had rhythm, emotion, context. That's how real learning works. The brain loves stories. It loves meaning. Memorization is just noise. Understanding is music. You might be wondering, but aren't flashcards helpful? Yes, but only if they're used with context. Instead of just writing the word decide, write, I decided to stay home last night. Then say it out loud, make it real. Better yet, record yourself saying it. Use it in a sentence about your own life. That's where memory becomes connection. Here's another trick. Stop translating everything. When you memorize a word in your language and then its English equivalent, your brain builds 2 steps. Your language English. That's slow. But if you learn words directly through images, emotions, or context, English meaning, you skip the middleman. That's what fluent speakers do. They don't think in 2 languages. They think in ideas. Want proof? Think about the last time you were deeply focused in a movie or a book in English. Maybe you didn't understand every word, but you followed the meaning. You were immersed. That's understanding, not memorizing. And guess what? You probably picked up some phrases, pronunciation, and sentence structure without even noticing it. Another thing, memorization creates pressure. When you try to recall a memorized rule while speaking, it slows you down. You hesitate. You doubt yourself. But when you feel the language because you've understood it in context, it flows naturally. You don't need to pause and calculate. You just speak. Understanding builds intuition. You don't need to remember the present perfect formula to say, I've been there. You just know it sounds right because you've heard it, read it, and used it in real-life examples. And that's what we want. Intuitive English, not robotic English. So how do you move away from memorization? Replace it with exposure. Start listening more. Watch videos, not with subtitles in your language, but in English. Rewatch episodes. Read stories, not textbooks. And most importantly, speak. Speak badly, speak imperfectly, but speak with meaning. Use what you've understood, not what you've memorized. Finally, here's the core truth. You don't become fluent by collecting rules. You become fluent by living the language. If English is a puzzle, memorization gives you scattered pieces, but understanding gives you the picture. And once you see that picture, everything starts to make sense. The context-first approach. Let's imagine 2 learners. Both are studying English vocabulary. One sits with a list, consume, desire, effort, maintain. He repeats the words, writes them 10 times, checks the dictionary. The other watches a short movie scene, hears a character say, if we want to maintain control, we have to put in more effort. She rewinds, listens again, reads the subtitles. Suddenly, those same words come to life, in context. Who do you think remembers them better? That's the power of the context-first approach. Context isn't a trick. It's how your brain actually learns language. Think about how a baby learns. They don't start with flashcards or grammar drills. They hear language used around them. They watch your face, your hands, the world. And over time, they connect sound with meaning, emotion with reaction. It's slow at first, but it becomes natural. That's because our brains are built to understand language through patterns and context, not cold memorization. So, what exactly is the context-first approach? It means you always prioritize the environment where language lives. Words aren't learned alone. They're learned in conversations, stories, images, sounds. If you learn the word run by itself, it's just a verb. But if you hear, she's been running late all week, you suddenly understand tone, metaphor, tanitom, timing, and usage. You learn the rhythm. That's learning in real life. Here's another example. Let's say you come across the phrasal verb pick up. You can memorize that it means to lift something or to learn. But when you hear someone say, I picked up a few words when I was in Spain. You're getting real meaning. It's casual. It has emotion. And you'll remember it because it came with a moment, not just a translation. Many learners think they need to understand every word before they can move on. That's not true. In context-first learning, it's okay to not get everything. That's how the brain learns patterns. When you read or hear English in full scenes, your mind starts to guess meaning. And this guesswork is powerful. It engages your brain deeply. Over time, those guesses become intuition. That's fluency. Let's bring it closer. Imagine watching a YouTube video about someone's daily routine. You hear, I wake up around 7, brush my teeth, then I grab some coffee. You might already know these words, but now you see how they fit. You hear the flow. You learn natural pauses. And suddenly, you realize, I could say that about myself. That's the magic moment. You go from memorizing to personalizing. So how do you apply this in your own practice? First, choose materials that are real and engaging. Think video blogs, podcasts, shows, interviews, anything that uses natural English. Avoid overly academic or scripted lessons. You want real voices, not textbook dialogues. Next, listen for phrases, not words. Don't pause every 2 seconds to look things up. Let the language wash over you. Watch a full scene, then watch it again. The second time, things click. The third time, you start to predict what's coming. That repetition in context builds real memory. It's like hearing a favorite joke. Eventually, you know the punchline before it's said. You can also use reading. But again, not textbooks. Choose simple stories, blogs, articles about things you care about. If you like sports, read a short sports article. If you love cooking, read a recipe blog. When the content is meaningful, the language sticks. You don't just read chop the onions, you imagine it. You feel it. That's powerful. Here's a great strategy. Use subtitles. Watch a series you like in English with English subtitles. At first, it feels hard, but over time, your eyes and ears start to sync. You hear pronunciation, stress, intonation, and you see the words. Then, turn off the subtitles and see what you understand. You'll be surprised how much you've absorbed. But remember, context is more than just input. It's about output, too. Practice speaking with the phrases you hear. Don't create fake sentences like, the boy has a red book. That's not how we speak. Instead, say things like, I didn't get much sleep last night, or, do you want to grab lunch later? These are useful, real, from context. You can even shadow. Shadowing means repeating what someone says as they say it. Pick a short video or clip and mimic the speaker. Same tone, same speed. This builds muscle memory. You're not just saying words, you're copying real human expression. That's fluency training. Many learners say, but I don't have anyone to speak with. You don't need a partner to start. Speak to yourself. React to videos out loud. Answer questions from podcasts. Record yourself talking about your day, then listen back. That reflection is gold. You'll hear your mistakes, your improvements, and most importantly, your confidence growing. Also, use emotion. If something makes you laugh, cry, or feel surprised, pause and notice the language. Emotional moments are sticky. You're more likely to remember, you've got to be kidding me, if it made you laugh than if you saw it in a vocabulary list. Language is emotional. Use that to your advantage. The more you expose yourself to real English, the more you'll start thinking in English. That's the goal. You'll stop translating. You'll stop searching for rules. You'll just know. And the beautiful part? It doesn't feel like studying. It feels like living the language. Because that's what real learning is. Let's be honest, language is messy. It's full of exceptions, slang, weird grammar, and expressions that don't translate. But when you learn through context, you embrace that mess. You flow with it. You don't need to know why something is correct. You just know it sounds right. And that's fluency. So next time you reach for a word list, ask yourself, how can I see this word in action? Instead of memorizing the word challenge, find a podcast where someone talks about a challenge they faced. Instead of writing down angry, watch a clip where a character gets mad. Let language be alive. In summary, the context-first approach flips the traditional method. Instead of learning rules and then trying to use them, you learn usage, and the rules naturally reveal themselves. It's more fun. It's more powerful. And most importantly, it's how real people become real speakers. Stop isolating the pieces. Start seeing the picture. Language isn't about remembering, it's about connecting. And context is your bridge to understanding. Real conversation practice. Let's jump into a real English conversation. No textbooks, no made-up phrases, just the kind of dialogue you'd hear between two native speakers. First, I'll walk you through the full exchange. Then we'll break it down, piece by piece, to understand the vocabulary, the structure, and how you can use these patterns in your own speaking. A real conversation, Anna. Hey, you made it. I wasn't sure you were coming. Mark. Yeah, sorry. Traffic was a nightmare. Took me almost an hour to get here. Anna. No worries. I just got here too. Want to grab something to drink first? Mark. Definitely. I could use a coffee. Didn't even have breakfast. Anna. There's a place around the corner. It's usually quiet in the mornings. Mark. Perfect. Lead the way. Let's stop here. This is a simple, everyday interaction, but it's full of natural English, expressions, tone, flow. Let's take it line by line. Anna says, Hey, you made it. I wasn't sure you were coming. You made it is a casual way of saying, you arrived. It's something native speakers say all the time. Not formal, not textbook, real. Then she adds, I wasn't sure you were coming. This is in the past continuous, were coming. It expresses uncertainty in the past about a future event. Instead of saying, I thought maybe you wouldn't come, she says it more naturally, I wasn't sure you were coming. Now Mark replies, Yeah, sorry, traffic was a nightmare. Notice, traffic was a nightmare. That's an idiom. He doesn't mean an actual nightmare. He means traffic was really bad. These kinds of expressions are everywhere in English. They add emotion and color. Memorizing the phrase traffic jam is fine, but hearing traffic was a nightmare teaches you how people really speak. Then he says, Took me almost an hour to get here. Look at the grammar. There's no subject at the beginning. Native speakers often drop the it in casual speech. Instead of, it took me an hour, he just says, took me an hour. This is informal but very common. Next, Anna says, no worries, I just got here too. No worries is a friendly way to say, it's okay or don't worry about it. Again, it's short, relaxed, and real. Then, I just got here too uses the past simple, got here, to describe a recent action. She asks, want to grab something to drink first? This is where things get really natural. She drops the do you and just says, want to grab. That's how native speakers often speak in casual settings. Grab something to drink doesn't mean literally grabbing. It's just an informal way of saying, let's go get a drink. Mark replies, definitely, I could use a coffee. Now this is a great phrase to learn. I could use a, it means I really want or I need. It's softer than saying I want coffee. It's polite and natural. Try it. I could use a break. I could use a nap. I could use some help. He adds, didn't even have breakfast. Again, the subject I is dropped. Informal English often skips words to make speech faster. He's saying, I didn't even have breakfast, but naturally shortens it. Then Anna says, there's a place around the corner. It's usually quiet in the mornings. This gives location and atmosphere. Around the corner means very close by, and quiet in the mornings is a soft description that sets the scene. These are the kinds of phrases you can borrow for your own speaking. Talking about places and times becomes much easier when you collect these expressions. Mark finishes with, perfect, lead the way. Lead the way is a friendly way to say, go ahead, I'll follow you. It sounds confident, casual, and useful in so many daily situations. Now that we've broken it down, let's practice using some of those phrases. Try to repeat after me. You made it! Traffic was a nightmare. I could use a coffee. No worries. Want to grab something to drink? You don't need to memorize these. Instead, understand them and say them with meaning. Try using them in your own life. Next time you meet a friend, say, hey, you made it. Or if your morning is stressful, say, I could use a break. Now let's try switching roles. I'll be Mark. You be Anna. Me. Hey, sorry I'm late. Traffic was awful. Pause, you. You could say, no worries. I just got here too. Me. Mind if we grab a drink before we sit down? Pause, you. You could say, sure, there's a place nearby. This is conversation practice with real purpose. You're not repeating robotic sentences. You're learning how to flow, how to respond naturally, how to sound real. If you want to go deeper, try recording yourself playing both roles. Yes, it sounds funny, but it works. You build confidence. You notice what sounds off. You adjust. That's the kind of feedback no textbook gives you. And remember, conversation is not about perfect grammar. It's about connection. The goal isn't to speak like a robot, it's to speak like a person. Natural. Flowing, responsive. That's why real conversation practice is so powerful. Real conversation practice. Ready for another round? In this part, we'll explore a different kind of conversation, slightly more emotional, a little more expressive. You'll hear new vocabulary, common phrases, and how tone can completely change meaning. Real English is full of layers, and the more you understand how people actually speak, the more confident you'll become. Let's jump into the scene. A real conversation. Jenna, you okay? You seemed kind of off earlier. Liam, yeah, just one of those days, you know. Jenna, want to talk about it? Liam, not really. I just need to clear my head a bit. Jenna, totally get that. If you change your mind, I'm here. Liam, thanks, seriously. Now let's break it down. These lines are simple, but emotionally rich. They're full of common expressions that show support, empathy, and emotional intelligence. Jenna starts with, you okay? You seemed kind of off earlier. Notice how she doesn't say, are you okay? In casual speech, the R is often dropped. It feels more intimate, more natural. Then she says, you seemed kind of off. What does that mean? Off here doesn't mean broken. It means someone looked distracted, quiet, or not like their usual self. Saying someone seems off is a gentle way to ask if they're okay. Liam replies, "Yeah, just one of those days, you know." This is a very common phrase. Just one of those days means a day that's been tiring, frustrating, or heavy, but you can't quite explain why. It's a way of saying it's been rough without getting into the details. Jenna follows up, "Want to talk about it?" Again, casual speech. No do you, just wanna. This kind of sentence is often used to gently offer help or start a deeper conversation. Liam answers, "Not really. I just need to clear my head a bit." Let's focus on clear my head. This is a powerful expression. It means to mentally reset, to take a break from stress or emotions. Native speakers use it all the time. I need to clear my head could mean taking a walk, sitting alone, or just breathing. It's a great phrase for showing emotional awareness. Jenna responds with, "Totally get that. If you change your mind, I'm here." Totally get that means I completely understand. Again, natural and supportive. And if you change your mind, I'm here is a beautiful example of holding space for someone, offering presence without pressure. Finally, Liam says, "Thanks, seriously." That final seriously adds emotion. It's not just thank you, it's a deeper appreciation, a way of saying, I really mean it. Let's pause here and look at how powerful simple language can be. None of these lines are long or complicated, but the meaning behind them is deep. That's what makes real English special. It's about how you say things, not just what you say. Try practicing these out loud. You okay? You seemed kind of off. Just one of those days. I need to clear my head. If you change your mind, I'm here. Thanks, seriously. Now imagine using these in your real life. Maybe a friend is feeling stressed. You can ask, "You okay?" Or say, "I get it, totally." These phrases make you sound real. Not robotic, not rehearsed, just human. Let's do another mini scene. This time, you take the role of Jenna. Me. Ugh, I don't know. Today's been kind of weird. Pause. You. You might say, "You okay?" Or "Want to talk about it?" Me. "Nah, I just need to be alone for a while." Pause. You. You could say, "I totally get that. Let me know if you need anything." By practicing this kind of language, you learn how to respond in real time. You're not translating, you're feeling the language. And now let's flip it. You be Liam. I'll be Jenna. Me. You okay? You seemed off earlier. Pause. You. You might say, "Yeah, just one of those days." Me. Want to talk about it? Pause. You. You could say, "Not really, just need to clear my head." These exercises build reaction speed, and the best part, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You'll start to hear these expressions in TV shows, podcasts, movies, and they'll stick, because now they mean something to you. Also, don't forget tone. It's not just the words, it's how you say them. A soft, "Thanks, seriously," sounds totally different than a quick, "Thanks." Practice saying these lines slowly, with feeling. You'll notice how your English starts sounding more natural. One more tip. When you watch shows or videos, pause and repeat emotional scenes like this. Copy the rhythm, the pauses, the tone. That's how actors train, and that's how you train your fluency. English isn't just about information, it's a language of connection. Whether it's joy, frustration, excitement, or sadness, your job is to express it. And that means learning phrases that help you feel understood. The more you practice conversations like this, the better you'll get at listening, responding, and being present in English. That's real fluency. Not perfect grammar, but perfect timing, empathy, and confidence. So keep these phrases close. Use them often. And remember, your goal is not just to speak English, it's to connect with people, and real conversation is how you do that. Grammar in action. Grammar often feels like the most intimidating part of learning English. But here's the truth. Grammar isn't about rules, it's about rhythm. It's not meant to be memorized in isolation. It's meant to be seen in action, just like we've done in the previous conversations. In this section, we'll explore how key grammar points actually function in real sentences, naturally, clearly, and without the stress of remembering long rule charts. Let's start with present perfect, one of the most confusing tenses for learners. You probably know the form have, has plus past participle, but let's forget that for a second. Instead, listen to this. I've already eaten. She's lived here for 5 years. They've just left. What's happening here? The present perfect is used when the time of the action is not exact or when it connects to now. You're not saying when something happened, just that it has happened. For example, I've already eaten means, right now, I'm not hungry because the action of eating already happened. Simple, real. Compare that to past simple. I ate at 6 o'clock. That tells us exactly when. So, present perfect is about connection to the present. That's the key idea. Let's try another. What's the difference between I've been to Paris and I went to Paris last year? In the first sentence, you're talking about experience, in general. You're not focused on when, just that it happened. That's what present perfect does. It tells stories about your life experiences. Use it when the exact date isn't important. So instead of thinking, what's the rule? Ask, what am I trying to say about time? That shift changes everything. Next, let's look at future forms. English has several ways to talk about the future, but we often use them in different contexts. I'm going to travel to Canada next month. I'll call you later. We're meeting them at 6. What's the difference? Going to is for plans you've already decided. You've booked the ticket, made the decision. Will is often for decisions made in the moment or for promises. And we're meeting, that's present continuous used for fixed future plans. Yes, we use present continuous for the future. That's why learning the grammar through use is so important. You see what's possible. Grammar in action means you learn this by exposure. You hear people say, I'll let you know, and you realize, oh, that's a promise, said in the moment. You don't need to memorize the future rule, you just feel it. Let's shift gears and talk about modal verbs. Can, could, would, should, might, must. These are tricky because one word can have many meanings depending on context. Take can. I can swim. Ability. Can I leave now? Permission. Can you help me? Request. One word, 3 uses. That's why examples matter more than definitions. You don't need to memorize can equals ability. You need to see it used. Try this. Make a list of modal verbs and write 3 example sentences from real life for each one. Not from a grammar book, from shows, conversations, podcasts. That's grammar in action. Your brain stores meaning through example, not rule. Now let's talk conditionals, especially the second and third ones, which confuse many learners. If I were you, I'd take the job. If I had studied harder, I would have passed. Second conditional is used for hypothetical now or future. You're imagining, you're dreaming. If I were you, you're not me, but let's pretend. Third conditional is for the past. Things that didn't happen, regrets, missed chances. If I had studied, I didn't. That's over. It's done. But again, don't memorize names. Focus on function. What are you trying to express? If I had known about the party, I would have gone. That sentence tells a full story of regret in just one line. Powerful, right? Now, let's zoom in on articles. A, an, and the. So small but so confusing. A cat. Any cat. The cat. That specific cat. She adopted a dog. We're hearing this for the first time. The dog was really friendly. Now it's known, it's the dog we've just introduced. So how do you master articles? Not by memorizing the rules, but by reading and listening to how they're used. Your brain will start noticing patterns. Trust it. Let's also talk about passive voice. The package was delivered this morning. My car was stolen. The decision has been made. Why do we use the passive? To focus on the result or when we don't know the doer. Passive voice is common in news, reports, and formal writing, but also in everyday speech. You hear it in customer service all the time. Your order has been processed. When you understand why it's used, the structure makes more sense. Another big one, phrasal verbs. These are grammar and vocabulary together. Turn on the light. Give up smoking. Run into an old friend. One verb, one little preposition, a whole new meaning. These are everywhere in spoken English. Don't study them in lists. Learn them in sentences. Watch how they behave. Finally, let's talk about questions and negatives, because English has a unique structure. Positive, you like pizza. Negative, you don't like pizza. Question, do you like pizza? Notice how do, does, did takes center stage. This doesn't happen in many other languages. So how do you get used to it? Practice speaking and listening. Ask questions out loud. Do you like? Did you see? Have you been? The more you say it, the more natural it gets. The biggest grammar mistake learners make is trying to master the structure before seeing the usage. But grammar isn't a building, it's a living thing. You don't need to understand all the wiring behind a lamp to flip the switch. You just need to see how it works. So here's the new way to learn grammar. Observe it in real use. Repeat it out loud. Personalize it with your own examples. Forget the rule names. Remember the patterns. You're not here to pass a test. You're here to speak and understand. And grammar will come, not by force, but by familiarity. Grammar in action is grammar that sticks. Vocabulary. You actually use vocabulary is often taught in lists. Abandon, absorb, accelerate. But let's be honest, how often do you actually use those words? When you speak English, do you really say accelerate or abandon on a regular basis? Probably not. That's because the most useful vocabulary isn't the most advanced, it's the most common. In this section, we'll focus on vocabulary you actually use and how to use it naturally. Let's start with a few simple but powerful words and phrases that appear constantly in conversations. These are the building blocks of fluency, not fancy, but foundational. Take the word get. One small word, dozens of meanings. I got home late. Can you get me a drink? I'm getting tired. They got married last year. You've got to be kidding me. See how flexible it is? You don't need 50 different verbs. You need to understand how get changes based on context. Native speakers love these kinds of utility words. They're short, easy to say, and packed with meaning. Now think about phrases like kind of, a bit, and actually. She's kind of shy. I'm a bit tired. Actually, I changed my mind. These softeners help you sound more natural. Instead of saying, she is shy, saying kind of shy makes it more nuanced, more real. This is the kind of vocabulary native speakers use constantly, and you should too. Next, let's talk about phrasal verbs. Again, not from a list, but from situations. Let's build a scene. Imagine you're running late to meet a friend. You might say, "Sorry I'm late. I ran into my neighbor and got caught up. Then my phone died and I couldn't look up your number. By the time I got on the bus, it had already taken off." All of those bolded phrases are vocabulary in action. Ran into means you met someone unexpectedly. Got caught up means the conversation made you lose track of time. Look up, to search for something. Taken off, when a bus or plane leaves. These are all short, flexible, powerful. Now, you might be thinking, how do I remember these? Don't memorize them, use them. Create a little story about your day using just 5 phrasal verbs. It doesn't have to be perfect, just personal. For example, I woke up late, threw on some clothes, grabbed a quick bite, and headed out. Then I ran into an old friend. That's already a full paragraph using only common spoken vocabulary. See how natural that sounds? Another important type of vocabulary is functional language, things you say for specific purposes. If you're agreeing, totally. I get what you mean. Exactly. If you're disagreeing politely, I'm not sure I agree. Maybe, but have you thought about? I see your point, but... If you're asking for help, could you give me a hand? Mind helping me out? Would you mind explaining that again? These are more useful than any fancy word, because these are the words that get you through real situations. These are the tools of communication, not decoration. Let's look at how tone and vocabulary go together. Take this example. Formal, I am not available at that time. Natural, I can't make it then. Even more casual, that time doesn't work for me. Same message, 3 levels of vocabulary. Understanding tone is just as important as understanding meaning. You choose vocabulary not just based on grammar, but on how you want to sound. Now here's another secret. Personal vocabulary. Words that matter to you. Think about your job, your hobbies, your daily life. If you love photography, learn words like lens, shutter, focus, lighting. If you work in an office, focus on deadline, meeting, report, submit. Learning words related to your life will make your English more fluent and more relevant. Here's how to build personal vocabulary. Write a short paragraph about your day, in your own words. Look for the words you don't know in English. Find natural ways to say them. Say the paragraph out loud, using the new words. Do this every day for 1 week. You'll build a personalized, useful vocabulary bank that actually fits your real conversations. Let's also talk about collocations, words that often go together. You don't just say make or do. You say make a decision, do homework. You don't just say strong, you say strong coffee, strong argument. You don't just say take, you say take a break, take a nap, take your time. When you learn words together, you speak more naturally. So don't just learn break, learn take a break. Don't just learn decision, learn make a decision. Here's a practice idea. Pick 5 common verbs. make, do, take, give, get. For each one, learn 5 collocations. Then write a short conversation using all of them. It's fun and it builds real speaking skill. You should also use conversation fillers, short expressions that help you think or respond. Let me see. Well, actually, these aren't grammar, they're rhythm. They make you sound more fluent and confident. Try starting your sentences with one of these when speaking. It gives you time to think and adds fluency to your speech. And remember, learning vocabulary isn't just about understanding, it's about recall. You might understand a word when you read it, but can you use it in a sentence instantly? That's the goal. So instead of studying 100 words once, study 10 words 10 times. Practice using them, saying them, writing with them, speaking with them. Finally, let's talk about mistakes. You will use words wrong sometimes. That's okay, it's normal. It's part of fluency. Mistakes help you remember. If you say, "I'm boring," and someone laughs and says, "You mean you're bored?" You'll never forget that again. That's real learning. So forget about long vocabulary lists. Focus on words that fit your life. Words that show up in conversations. Words that build bridges, not just scores. Vocabulary is not a competition, it's a tool. Learn the words that help you speak, connect, and express who you are. Understanding through stories. Stories are one of the most powerful tools for learning a language. Why? Because they make information emotional, personal, and unforgettable. You don't just hear a word, you feel it. You don't just see grammar, you live it. In this section, we'll dive into a short story, then break it down to explore how the English works, naturally and clearly. Story: The Missed Train. It was a rainy Tuesday morning. Emma had woken up late, again. She rushed out of bed, grabbed her phone, and realized the battery was almost dead. "Great," she muttered. No time for breakfast. She threw on her coat, slipped into her shoes, and ran out the door. The train station was 10 minutes away, on a good day. As she reached the corner, she saw the bus pulling away. "Of course," she whispered, rolling her eyes. She decided to run. Rain soaked her hair. Her shoes squeaked with every step. Her bag bounced on her shoulder. She could hear the train horn in the distance, and she pushed harder. She reached the platform just as the train doors were closing. She waved. The conductor looked, then turned away. The doors shut with a final cruel click. The train pulled out. She stood there, wet, out of breath, and silent. Then her phone buzzed. A message from her boss. "Meeting moved to 11. Don't rush." Emma burst out laughing, right there, in the rain. Now let's explore what just happened, not just in the story, but in the language. This short scene contains emotion, action, and a ton of useful English. Look at the opening line. It was a rainy Tuesday morning. That's simple past tense, setting the scene. It's how many stories begin in English. You don't need fancy words to start strong. Next, Emma had woken up late, again. This is past perfect, had woken. And it shows that this event happened before the main timeline. It adds background. It gives you a little history. She's done this before. Past perfect adds depth to stories. Then we see action verbs. She rushed out of bed, grabbed her phone, threw on her coat, slipped into her shoes. These are all phrasal verbs and dynamic actions. Instead of saying, "She put on her coat," we say, "She threw on her coat." It adds speed, motion, emotion. This is how English paints pictures with simple phrases. And look at how she talks to herself. Great, she muttered. This adds character and realism. Native speakers often talk to themselves like this, short expressions filled with sarcasm or frustration. Next, she decided to run. That's present understanding in the middle of a past story. It shows her inner decision, in a moment. It makes the story feel alive. Now pay attention to the descriptive elements. Rain soaked her hair. Her shoes squeaked. Her bag bounced. She could hear the train horn. These sensory details are short but powerful. You're not just reading, you're feeling what she feels. That's what makes vocabulary stick. It's linked to a scene, to a sound, to a feeling. Then comes the climax. She reached the platform just as the train doors were closing. Notice the use of just as. It means right at the last second. This timing phrase adds suspense. It builds tension. The doors shut with a final cruel click. Now that's descriptive storytelling. Cruel click is not about grammar, it's about emotion. But because you feel the moment, you remember the words. That's language that lasts. Now, the twist. Her phone buzzed. A message from her boss. Meeting moved to 11. Don't rush. Suddenly, all that effort, all that running, was unnecessary. And what's her reaction? She burst out laughing. Right there, in the rain. These short lines are powerful. They end the story with emotion, relief, irony, and a bit of comedy. Now let's practice some of the expressions from this story in your own way. Can you say, I threw on my shoes and ran out? I got soaked in the rain. I just missed the bus. My phone was dead. My meeting got moved. These are phrases you can actually use in your life. They're not rare, they're real. Here's a fun challenge. Take one event from your own life, being late, losing something, having a weird day, and tell the story in English. Use the expressions we saw here. Keep it short, make it real, then say it out loud. Stories aren't just about learning English. They're about connecting. When you tell a story in English, even a small one, you become more fluent, more confident, more you. You also start to notice how grammar supports meaning. You see why we use the past perfect, why action verbs are more vivid, why short expressions like of course add emotion. And here's a secret, you don't have to write big stories. Even 2 or 3 sentences can teach you something new. Try this. Mini story practice. Pick a feeling, late, frustrated, excited. Write 3 lines to describe a small event. Include at least one phrasal verb or natural expression. Read it out loud with emotion. For example, I missed the last train last night. Totally my fault. I lost track of time. Had to walk home in the cold. Boom, that's a story. And it teaches you tense, rhythm, vocabulary, all in context. Practice with purpose. Let's be honest, practicing English can sometimes feel like going in circles. You watch a video, read a bit, maybe do some exercises, but nothing seems to stick. You're putting in the time, but where's the fluency? That's where this section comes in. Because real progress doesn't come from doing more, it comes from practicing with purpose. So let's build a smarter, more focused way to learn. First, ask yourself this question. What do I actually need English for? Is it for work, travel, school, making friends, watching Netflix without subtitles? Whatever your goal is, define it clearly. When you know the reason, your learning becomes sharper. You're not just improving in general, you're improving for something. Next, stop treating English like a subject. It's not math, it's not history. It's a tool. a living tool. And tools are meant to be used. That means your practice needs to be active, not passive. Watching is great, listening is great. But if you're not speaking, not writing, not producing language, you're not building fluency. You're just absorbing. Let's break it down into a simple system: input, output. Feedback. Repeat. Input is everything you take in: videos, podcasts, stories, conversations. Make sure your input is comprehensible. That means you understand at least 70 to 80%. Don't force yourself to understand everything. Let your brain fill in the gaps over time. Input is where your vocabulary, grammar, and rhythm are born. Output is when you speak or write. It's when you take what you've learned and turn it into your own words. This is where most learners struggle, not because they're lazy, but because they're afraid. Afraid to sound wrong. But here's the truth: mistakes are the fastest teachers. Every time you say something and it doesn't come out right, your brain learns what to fix. So how do you practice output with purpose? Record yourself talking about your day. Answer video prompts on YouTube or TikTok. Shadow native speakers. Write a short daily journal in English, even 3 sentences. Send voice messages to language partners. The more output you produce, the faster your brain builds access to the English it already knows. Now comes the step everyone skips: feedback. You can't grow without knowing what's working and what's not. But you don't need a teacher to give you feedback. You can give it to yourself. Record your voice, then listen back. Ask, does this sound natural? Compare your sentences to native ones. What's different? Use grammar checkers to spot repeated mistakes. Repeat difficult phrases until they feel easy. Even better, use reflection. After every practice session, take 60 seconds and write, what did I learn? What was difficult? What can I try tomorrow? That simple habit turns practice into purpose. Here's something else: variety matters. Don't just do one kind of practice every day. Mix it up. Monday, watch a video and summarize it. Tuesday, listen to a podcast and mimic part of it. Wednesday, write a paragraph about your opinion. Thursday, read a short article and highlight useful phrases. Friday, speak freely about your week. Small activities, big gains. This kind of schedule trains your listening, speaking, reading, writing, all in balance. But the most important ingredient? Emotion. If you're bored, you're not learning. Motivation matters. So choose topics you care about. Don't study boring dialogues if you love travel. Watch travel vlogs instead. Don't force yourself through textbooks if you love food. Read recipes or cooking blogs in English. When you care, you remember. When you enjoy, you repeat. And when you repeat, you improve. Another powerful strategy is micro goals. Don't say, I want to be fluent. That's too vague. Say, this week I want to learn 10 new phrases about emotions. Or, today I want to describe my morning in English. Small goals lead to big results. Here's an example plan for one purposeful practice day. Goal: improve speaking fluency. Input: watch a 3-minute clip of a casual conversation. Output: repeat the dialogue out loud, shadowing. Feedback: record yourself and compare to the video. Reflection: what sounded good? What felt difficult? That's it. Just 20-30 minutes, but done with intention, with clarity, with purpose. Now let's talk about resistance. Some days you won't feel like it. That's normal. But here's the trick. Reduce the friction. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Even 5 minutes a day is better than one long session a week. If you can scroll your phone, you can practice English. Turn Instagram time into English time. Follow creators who speak naturally. Listen to stories while walking. Change your phone's language settings. Make English a part of your life, not just your study time. And finally, give yourself grace. You're not behind, you're not slow, you're learning. And every time you show up, even for a few minutes, you're moving forward. English is not a destination. It's a journey, a skill, a voice that's already inside you, waiting to be heard. And when you practice with purpose, you don't just learn faster. You learn smarter. You learn in a way that sticks. So start small, stay curious, keep going. And remember, the goal isn't perfection,